Imagine this for a moment. You borrow money from a bank to start a small shop. At first, everything looks fine, but slowly something strange begins to happen. Most of the money you earn every month does not go into growing your business. It goes into paying interest on the loan. You keep working harder, but the bank keeps getting richer. Now imagine this situation happening not to a person, but to entire countries. Welcome to one of the most powerful systems shaping the modern world, the global debt system. And the big question is, why does global debt often keep poor countries poorer, while powerful nations continue getting richer? Let's understand this in the simplest way possible. How global debt actually works. Many developing countries need large amounts of money to build things that help their economies grow. For example, governments need money for building highways and railways, schools and hospitals, electricity and power plants, ports and airports, digital infrastructure and technology. All of these things are necessary for a country to develop. But the problem is, these projects cost billions of dollars. Most developing countries simply do not have enough money in their budgets to fund these massive projects. So what do? They borrow money, usually from large global financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Sometimes they also borrow from powerful countries or global investors through international bond markets. At first, this system seems very helpful. A country receives billions of dollars. New highways are built. Power plants are constructed. Cities begin to modernize. For a few years, everything looks like progress. But the real challenge begins later. Because countries do not just repay the money they borrowed. They must repay the loan plus interest. And over time, this interest can become extremely expensive. But there is another important factor. Many loans from international institutions also come with economic conditions. For example, lenders might require a government to reduce government spending, privatize state-owned companies, increase taxes, remove subsidies on fuel or food, open markets to foreign companies. These policies are often designed to stabilize economies. But in some cases, they can create serious economic pressure on ordinary citizens. A powerful example of this happened in Sri Lanka. For many years, Sri Lanka borrowed large amounts of money from international lenders and global bond investors to finance development projects. These projects included highways, ports, airports, infrastructure expansion. At first, the investments seemed like a path toward rapid development. But slowly, the country's debt started growing. Then several unexpected events made the situation worse. Tourism collapsed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Foreign currency reserves dropped sharply, and the government still had to repay billions of dollars in foreign debt. By 2022, the country simply could not repay its loans anymore. Sri Lanka officially defaulted on its debt. The consequences were dramatic. The country faced fuel shortages, long lines for food and gas, massive inflation, nationwide protests. Eventually, Sri Lanka had to request emergency financial assistance from the International Monetary Fund. But the rescue program required difficult reforms such as higher taxes, reduced government spending, economic restructuring. So in the end, ordinary citizens had to carry much of the burden of the debt crisis. This example shows how borrowing money for development can sometimes turn into a serious national crisis if the economy cannot generate enough income to repay the debt. To understand this better, imagine something very common. Suppose someone takes a large loan to build a house. At first, everything is exciting. The house is built, life improves. But every month, the person must pay EMI plus interest. If their income grows, the loan is manageable. But if something unexpected happens, like losing a job or facing a financial emergency, the loan payments can quickly become overwhelming. Soon, the person might need to take another loan just to repay the first loan. And slowly they fall into a debt cycle. This is very similar to what happens with countries. A nation might borrow money to build infrastructure. But if its economy does not grow fast enough to repay the loans, the country can become trapped in a cycle of borrowing and repayment. And by the way, If you enjoy understanding how global economics, geopolitics, and world power actually work, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Because here we break down complex global issues into simple stories anyone can understand. Now let's continue, because the next part is even more surprising. Why powerful countries benefit. Now here's the part most people never realize. Who actually lends most of this money? It is usually wealthy countries, international financial institutions, global investment funds. Most of these lenders are based in powerful economies like United States, Germany, Japan. When countries pay back loans with interest, money flows from poorer nations to richer financial centers. So, while developing countries struggle to repay debt, financial institutions and investors in powerful nations continue earning profits. This is why some experts argue that the global debt system can reinforce global inequality. To understand this better, think about something many people experience. Imagine two students. Student A comes from a wealthy family. They can start a business with family money and no debt. Student B comes from a poor background. They must take a high-interest loan to start the same business. Even if both work equally hard, Student B spends years just paying interest. Student A grows faster because they're not trapped in debt. Now scale this situation to entire countries. Some countries start with wealth and financial power. Others start with heavy debt, and that difference can shape their economic future for decades. But the big question for the future is, the world is now entering a period where global debt is reaching historic levels. Many developing countries today are struggling with rising interest payments. Some economists are asking an important question. Is the global financial system helping countries grow, or quietly keeping some nations stuck in a cycle of debt? The answer to that question could shape the global economy for decades to come. So next time you hear about a country taking a massive loan, remember this: debt can build roads, cities, and economies. But if it is not managed carefully, it can also trap entire nations in a cycle that is very difficult to escape. And the real question is global debt a tool for development, or a system that quietly keeps the rich world richer? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy learning how global economics shapes the world, don't forget to subscribe and join this journey of understanding our changing world. If you want to truly understand how financial power works in the real world, watch my video on how Rockefeller used low prices to destroy competitors. It wasn't cruel, it was math. Because sometimes the biggest economic battles are not fought with weapons, but with numbers.